And now, Pujya Atman Sri Swami Jyotirmayananji commences tonight's Satsang with the Sanskrit peace chant.
Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We begin with mystic song by Sri Swami Lalitananda, played and sung by Sri Swami Umananda and Rajneesh.
Our song tonight is based on a poem by Swamiji. It's called Somewhere. Somewhere, someone placed the flute and sings a mystic song that comes sweeping over the mountains, by lakes and forests, dancing on ocean waves, playing with shining stars. Somewhere, someone beyond the wheel of time is singing a sweet song, and in the early dawn, as I listen, I become one with a song. The world fades like the morning mist. I have become one. I am We are recording from the ashram of our revered Guru, Pujya Atman Sri Swami Jyotirmayananji in Miami, Florida. Today is July the 11th, 2018, Wednesday evening, and tonight Swamiji will be lecturing on Yoga Vasistha. This is series 2018, class number 54. And now Pujya Atman Sri Swami Jyotirmayananji.
Om Brahmanandam Param Sukhadam Kevalam Jnana Murtim Dvandvatītam Gagana Sadrisham Tattvamasya Laksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadhi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatītam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami. Om. Adorations to Sadguru, who is Brahman, the giver of supreme bliss, embodiment of pure consciousness, one without a second, vast as the ether, infinite, eternal, beyond the three gunas and their modifications, the supreme preceptor. Yoga Vasistha, Utpatti Prakarana, section 55. Gaining insight into what happens after death. And that's, as Leela's story is coming to a close, but still we are in that plan of Leela's story. The setting here is Goddess Saraswati and Leela. Leela number 1. They are in the realm of King Viduratha. And Viduratha is about to depart, is struggling. And during that stage, Leela asks Goddess Saraswati regarding what happens to the soul. So that's the context of the story. Leela asked, O Goddess, please enlighten me more on the subject of death and on what happens to different souls after death. This will intensify my dispassion towards the world process. So the whole study is intended to create dispassion. Dispassion, not ordinary, not to come into the world process. That's called para-vairagya. Vairagya has different levels. First stage of vairagya, you begin to understand the pleasure of the senses is not your goal. And so therefore, each time any tempting object you see, your mind repeats the mantras of the negativity of that appearance. How much pain is behind it. Sarvam dhokam vivekina. As vivek, discriminative intellect begins to shine, then we begin to recognize or understand that the ultimate solution to your life's problem is not here in this world. Petty solutions, of course, every day you can look at your kitchen and see the tea well cooked. But that's not all, or I'm giving in a joking manner, but all that life allows one to enjoy. A lot of business success, a lot of popularity, a lot of friends, and lots of fun. And you end up not satisfied. You want more. This point, as it enters your heart, and you begin to strive to develop detachment from the world. That's the first stage called Vyatireka. The next stage is you develop a sense of degrees of control over your senses. That's actually, from technical point of view, the second stage. First stage is general understanding. The world will not give you the nourishment you are seeking. Now, next stage you come Vyatireka, implying that you develop different degrees of control. You realize certain things will not affect you. You hear the gossips of the people, it won't affect you. But you see the people drunk and dancing, and your mind has not conquered the fascination for drinking, then it will affect you. So therefore, move away from there. So you have degrees of control. Next stage is called ekendriyam. Ekendriyam Means now your control has come to a deeper level. You realize that your senses are just a slave of your mind. So you don't have to calculate which sense object you should avoid, which sense object you should go after. But just control the mind. If mind is not interested, let there be all temptations. It doesn't matter. It's ekendriya. Mind is the only mantra for you. Last stage called Vashikaranam. Vashikaranam is the mind comes under control. Ekendriyam is one-pointed. Mind becomes the only cause for your problem, and you go through yoga process of concentration, meditation, and the mind comes under complete control. All this is the picture of lower vairagya. To reiterate, the first one is called yatamanam, striving stage. Second stage is vyatirekam, finding degrees of control. Third stage, you have the only basis of your vairagya is now only your mind. You are not dependent. Senses are not your problem. And finally, even that mind is not a problem. Now, when you have come to that stage, that is the stage where your vairagya now has come to a, not to be tempted to come back to the cycle of birth and death. So when that stage has reached, your mind has come to understand the difference between bhava pratyaya and pratyaya bhava. All you are experiencing in the world is mind's projections. That's all the world you can experience. But now, end the projection process. Dump the mind, allow the mind itself to dissolve. Just like watching a cinema show. Your joy in watching depends upon the contents of the picture. And you go on looking for better and better, fascinating, instructive and inspiring scenes. But no matter how inspired you are, your ultimate goal is move away from cinema show. So dumping the entire show process, that's called pratyaya bhav. So one is a experience in the realm of projections. Another stage where projections are transcended completely. That's called paravairagya. And in that state, the devotion to God that develops is called parabhakti. And the wisdom that enters your heart is param jnana. Because you are practicing devotion, going after knowledge, all not for anything in the world, but for attaining liberation, mukti, immortality. Immortality cannot be found among mortals. So that's what Leela says to Goddess Saraswati. So asks about death, etc. The purpose, so that I am not drawn to the cycle of birth and death. And Goddess Saraswati gives insight. People in this world call the departed spirit preta. Preta term is a Sanskrit literary meaning, pret. Pret means soul drawn by tat. Pray is prerana. Soul has the urge to find the absolute truth. Tat is that absolute. Pray is prerana. Ta, tat. The ultimate hunger of the soul is attaining enlightenment. No matter where the soul is, no matter how much a person is a sinner or virtuous, this soul's real instinct, urge, is to regain the revelation, I am Satchidananda, Sat-Chit Ananda. Same thing is described as Om Tat Sat. Tat, tat is that. I am that am I. That's ultimate hunger for your soul. Until then, soul can go on eating all types of things, it's enjoying all types of things, but its hunger will not be appeased. Its thirst will continue. After death, the soul is mingled with its subtle desires, much like wind that carries fragrance. The wind comes to your room and slips by. But if you had onions or sandal paste, the wind is carrying the fragrance with it. So as the soul moves away from one body is like a house for the soul. It moves just like a breeze, but it carries the type of subtle desires that you have created in your life. That subtle desires go along with your soul, like a fragrance, like the aroma, smell. After it discards this body, the soul is compelled by its subtle desires, and it becomes eager to behold new forms of the world process. Having passed through this swoon-like state of death, the spirit wakes up to find itself in another body. In a normal, healthy state of death is very similar to your going into sleep. That's the ideal type of death that people, virtuous people, pray for. Sahaj. You can see even in animals, very weak, animal goes to sleep and won't wake up. Passed on without any sound. Many people do that. That again depends upon the karmic process. And when the soul has done it, there is no experience within the soul that I left that, I died, and I'm now coming back. Ask a baby. No idea of that. That he died. He stayed wandering until the house was built up within the mother's womb body. And then entering in it. All that happens in a very natural way. Tree is growing, hardly it has any worry about the scientific technology behind all that happens. Such is the mystery of karma. So that's the normal way. Normal two types. One is when you sleep, you are rehearsing death, but it is of a different nature. You go beyond all body and its problems and time, space. And when you wake up, you come back to the same body. The death is different. You don't come back to the same body. You get up, find yourself in another body. And led by karma, you go sleeping until you, in another body, you become alive as a child begins to grow. Having given a little picture of death and what happens, things are not exactly for every soul. It's not so simple. O Leela, there are 6 types of departed souls, 6 types of pretas. Samanya, Madhyam, Gross. Samanya, Madhyam and Uttam. Sanskrit words. Samanya, the ordinary souls. Ordinary, rather, Samanya refers to ordinary sins, not very intense type. Madhyam refers to not ordinary, mixed up sins that are a little more cluttered. And gross, terrible sins. So, souls that are gripped by sinners, they are of 3 types. Sinful, moderately sinful, intensely sinful. And virtuous souls also are of 3 types. Ordinarily virtuous, moderately virtuous, and intensely virtuous. This again is not a complete mathematics. This has many branches. But these are the basic outlines. Now, describing what happens for all these 6 types of souls. An ordinary sinner is led to a human embodiment in a short time. Time again is not a literal implication. The soul does not, it's given from the point of view of practicality of the world. People who are gripped by a certain norm of the time. And that's what I'm implying. All that you study about time in history, how many years back, everything is precision. You look at a rock and we determine how many million years it has taken. All the time that you study is through your human mind. That human mind's concept of time is not the absolute reality. But following that type of standard from human point of view, this sinful soul that is not terribly sinful, ordinary, will not take much time, will be born very soon. At least must allow 10, 11, 12 months. The soul is guided by its vasanas to experience a human birth. Even as a person is led to experience the world of dream. You sleep and you are led to a dream. Here, your sleep is death and you are led to a long dream. Two types of dream you are involved in. Short dreams come every day, and sleep you experience every day. But sleep is very similar to death. Everything moves away from you. And you hardly know that you are sleeping. You slip into dreams. And hardly you know that those dreams are illusions. They never existed. But your experience continues without any contradiction within your experience. And all that's the magic of karmic process. Ordinary sinful karma has brought that type of experience, a simple movement. And what has guided you in this movement? Your vasanas, subtle impressions of the unconscious. But unconscious has two levels. Profound impressions are called sanchit karma. Subtle impressions that come from deep unconscious to a surface unconscious. Surface unconscious, people call it subconscious. Like seeds sprouting. The sprouting state of seeds will work first. Countless seeds are buried and they will not operate. So led by those sprouting seeds, vasanas, you go into another embodiment. This is for the samanya, ordinary sinner. One who is moderately sinful, the second type, madhyam type. He experiences a stone-like state of swoon for a long time. Think of falling into sleep and going into dream. Think of taking a drug and falling into a sleep and going into a terrible dream. Same thing happening. But now it doesn't have that same simplicity. Even the dying process is not easy. As if you are crushed by a big rock and you become completely unconscious. But you face a certain terror before you go to sleep. I mean, I'm talking about sleep, but I'm talking about death. Before you go to And then you are born not as a human being. Led by your different karmas, you are born as animals and birds. Many very intelligent dogs, cats, monkeys, and they perform a lot of human services. And having worked out certain negative karma, the soul of a dog can become next time a human being. He's not waiting for Darwin to guide its evolution. So therefore, even the idea that one may fall into an animal level with a profound, healthy mind, that idea is not to be viewed as something terrible. From a practical point of view, animals and birds may present a lot of sufferings, but their sufferings compared to human sufferings are very little. Because human mind suffers more when people see the person very prosperous. And even while he appears very prosperous and successful, he is extremely miserable within himself. An animal, even in the worst condition, his mind is not blaming anybody. He's not looking into the breaking of the news every moment. Not holding any grudge against people. They do that in a limited way. They are not carrying all the burden of worries and anxieties. Because they are in the instinctive plane. In divine way, the soul has been given a kind of hospitalization by putting the soul in an animal body. Having passed through many such embodiments, he finally becomes a human being. How fortunate. Yes, reminded me of my human beings. One who is intensely sinful, this is the third type, the intense, continues to suffer hellish miseries after death. The very death process is very terrible. And after death, it's hellish. He drifts from one pain to another. After passing through numerous embodiments of insects, birds, and animals, he attains human embodiment. Another point to remember, of course, every time all things are not put together. One point is there, after death, there is a certain period the soul stays with the subtle body to exhaust the extreme karmas. The karmas can be joyous, heaven, if you are really with virtue, or hell. And I have explained that before. A person may say, there is enough hell here. Why do you have to bring hell after death? But what you don't understand, the hell you experience here is guarded by your nervous system. You can suffer some pain, but beyond that, you will become unconscious. In hell, you don't have the body. You don't have nervous system. So now your pain is beyond imagination. And same thing happens with joy, pleasure, led by virtue. You can experience virtue to a certain limit, certain fruit of virtue, pleasure, joy. Beyond that, human heart can't bear with it, even with very good news, and people have to be careful. But in heaven, you don't have that restriction. So therefore, the certain virtuous karmas open the door to such joy that as human being with nervous system, you can't imagine. However, it is not your goal and it's not the reality. So after exhausting the karma, you are born again. If you have exhausted heavenly karma and born, you will express from your childhood something unique characteristics. Cute. Inspiring gestures. But if the soul has come from hellish experience, that also is cute. But the soul will be acting like a frog, going after worms. So, certain characteristics they have developed from the very babyhood. You can see different types, led by karmas. Now we come into the three types of sinful karmas have been described. Now coming to three types of virtuous karmas, virtuous souls. After one who is moderately virtuous, dies, he sees himself being guided by divine beings, angels. And he is led through heavenly gardens that abound with beautiful trees, creepers, and flowers. He enjoys celestial pleasures on the basis of his good karmas. When he exhausts the karmas that bear fruit in heavenly world, he falls from the heavens, and having passed through the process of two-aspected, his residence is being formed in the mother's body, and his soul waits, led by divine will, to tune itself to enter that body. So the body enters mother's womb. In the beginning stage, the soul has not occupied it. It waits, just like when you are planning for a house. You give all the technicians, write all the papers, necessary papers, and they go on making it. And you are waiting. When his house is ready to be occupied, you enter into it. But both movements, building of the body and your time to occupy, is handled by your karmic process. Your virtuous karma will manages all this. Formation of human body is a universal task. All elements, all nourishment that's all over the world, they filter out what exactly needed for a particular soul. All hereditary traits must reflect in every drop of blood. So it's not an ordinary thing. And also, as he enters embodiment, he can be in male body or in female body, depending upon the karmas. One who is intensely virtuous experiences more intensive joys of the heavenly world, and following a similar process is finally led to be born in a righteous family. Now, a few points to be understood, that while this is a general description of different types of karmas, three types of people who are sinful: ordinary sin, medium sin, intense sin. Ordinary virtue, medium virtue, best virtue. Any soul that happens to, again by mystery of some special karma or devotion to God, if suddenly bhakti or grace sneaks into your karmic pattern, then there is an immediate transformation. You do not wait for the karmic process to follow its mathematics. And you have many, many illustrations. Even the great author and the rishi of the Yoga Vasistha, Valmiki himself, is a big example. He was a terrible sinner, not ordinary. He maintained his family by robbing people. He didn't know any other job. And in his robbing, he had no compassion. He could kill people like anything, like just grass. And then comes an encounter with Narada. And he happens to aim at Narada's veena, will give him some money. So grabbed Narada and caught hold of his veena. And Narada says, "You can have it, but just do one thing for me. Ask your family, are they sharing your negative karmas? So negative karmas will bring you painful result, hellish result. Are your family for whom you are doing this, are they going to share?" And Valmiki goes and asks his wife, "Look, I've left you, made you so happy. You with your family, how cozy you seem." But the work I have been doing will give hell. So let's all go there to the hell. Wife said, "Oh no hell for me. I never told you to do that type of job." His son said the same thing, his daughter said the same thing. And suddenly it occurred to his mind, what have I done? And he comes to Narada and wants to be initiated. And Narada gives the mantra Ram, Ram. He said, my tongue has used so many vulgar things. And how can the Ram sit there? Give me some other initiation. Not Ram. So Narada wanted to trick his mind. Said, look, those dead bodies that you have killed, what do you call them? Mara. Repeat, Mara, Mara, Mara. उल्टा नाम जगत जग जाना वाल्मीकि भय ब्रह्म समाना. So he started saying Mara, Mara, Mara. Though initiated in a third way, his mind started working in the right way. All these fascinating stories with subtle insights. Though mantra initiation has not been exactly to your capacity or to understanding, you begin to repeat in a little wrong way, but it rightens itself. And Valmiki story continues. He comes to a level of experiencing samadhi. He enters into samadhi in such a way that he stayed in samadhi, and the story says his whole body became an anthill, and he didn't know it. But it's all allegorical. It became an anthill means he transcended his body. He saw his body as work of cells. It's worse than anthill. Don't be upset. And he emerged as an enlightened sage. And the first experience, he sees two birds enjoying, sporting in love. And at that time, a hunter shoots one of the bird, and his heart is so touched by it. In that he sees the entire philosophy reflected, that every soul enters this world process enjoys company of near and dear ones, and death suddenly shoots. And every soul has to suffer from it. First he uses some words of curse for the hunter. And then the inspiration that has developed as an effect of that experience, his heart has started melting. And then Narada and other divine sages inspire him to compose Ramayana for remedying that predicament that everyone faces. You come to a cozy state of life and suddenly you are disrupted, and that nobody can escape it. And what is the remedy? The entire Ramayana. To live your life with devotion and profound understanding, of course, integral yoga in daily life. So, while I have described sinful people, virtuous people, and how they happen, but if satsanga sneaks into any stage, then the whole situation changes. In all religions, we have descriptions of terrible people, sinful people turning into saintly people. So it doesn't follow a simple mathematics that let's first all the sinful karmas be washed away, then saintly. A sudden transformation can occur. Another point. Virtuous karmas are of two types. Virtuous karmas that keep your mind always interested in the fruit of karma. That goes on giving you prosperous situation, but it doesn't last. You go on, your birth and death continue. Next type of virtuous karma that brings you close, allows satsanga to enter into your personality. Your virtue becomes a basis for purifying your heart. And the joy coming out of the purity of heart is so great that you don't go after the fruits of karmas. If you have developed that type of virtue, then your next embodiment will be in the family of yogis. You may not necessarily be born prosperous. You may be born even in an ordinary family, struggling for money. Nevertheless, you are going to be an enlightened sage. And that's the highest type of birth. All experiences of heaven and hell take place in the heart of a person. These heaven and hell, they are not geographical positions in vast space. They are all drama created by your mental projections. And all the projections are sustained by the screen. The screen type of consciousness is called the heart. That heart remains always untouched. The screen remains untouched. And that's what you have to find by entering into the cave of your heart, the core of your heart. And that point comes, that's why guru term is used. Gu is guha, cave. Ru, that illumines the cave. And the more you are able to enter that heart, you experience gaurava, a mystical pride. That pride is different, not ordinary vanity, but a sense of revelation that real I am has no limit. Every soul is ever the self that transcends time and space. However, such is the miracle of vasanas, that one feels that he has been led to different planes, that he has experienced different conditions of pleasure and pain, that he must continue to wander in the world process, driven by his karmas. All that goes on, just like all your dreams go on and you are just lying on the bed. You go nowhere. While the virtuous after their death feel that they are being welcomed by heavenly gods, the sinners feel that they have been led to the god of death. They feel that they are haunted by Yamadutas, messengers of death. After experiencing the swoon of death, swoon is fainting, a departed soul becomes associated with a process of illusory recollections, memories, a false memory, and feels, I am dead. My relatives have performed rituals to help me. My friends have offered prayers for me. This again is shocking news for the masses. I'd say, soul that is virtuous will have that type of a mental recollection that people have offered prayers, they have given blessings, they have done Shraddha ceremony. But the soul that doesn't have that quality, that good karma, even though all the relatives have done the best of Shraddhanjali and all rituals, even fasted, and the soul will have its experience, nobody cares for it. Left alone, deserted, what a world. Then you will say, why should we do Shraddhanjali? You do it for yourself. And if, it's another way of thinking, if your doing is giving certain inspiration to the departed soul, that is similar to a patient being taken to the doctor. And doctor helps the patient, but behind this is patient's karma. Even in situations it's where it seems that you are being helped by others, the others are helping you because of your good karma. Otherwise, there may be best of doctors around you and you can have nothing to do with them. So that's another subtle point, you have to digest it. But behind all that, the moral is not to stop your good deeds. It is not dependent upon, if I am doing Shraddha ceremony, will the departed soul hear? That shouldn't enter your mind. Your soul is hearing it. And your soul is related to God. And now leave it in God's hand. And God is touching every soul, so it's not going in vain. With this I'm going to conclude. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Does anyone have a question for Swamiji? Please raise your hand.
Gurudev, the other day you were talking about absolute awareness stumbling upon the triad. Can you please elaborate on that?
Try to understand another simple way. That expression is allegorical. This is nothing. The absolute consciousness doesn't tumble. Think of the screen tumbling upon the cinema show. See, if the screen tumbles, the whole show is up. It blows away. So, if you understand that, that's the answer behind it. A revelation, all this is pure consciousness. All reflected suns you are enjoying and suddenly revelation, they are all reflections of the sun. The sun is pure consciousness, stumbled upon all the reflections, and they all went away. Could not grumble. Okay.
Swamiji, Goddess Saraswati initially mentioned to Leela, first Leela, that nothing ever happened, there's no death, there's no rebirth.
Mm-hmm.
And then she went on to describe in great detail about the virtuous and the details. Is that talking about the absolute
The same
reality?
thing happens. We start the teachings, first we say Purnamada Purnamidam, all is Brahman. Then we start. So it's same style.
Thank you.
Om Tat Sat, Swamiji. It's been a while since I've been able to come back to the ashram. I'm very happy to be here. So I've been working for some time on writing a modern day kind of Bhagavad Gita for the younger generation. So I came to a couple snags. One was that I had a horrible infection in my eyes, so I have been unable to write or read because I've been pretty much blind. But my eyesight is getting better. I have a good doctor now who is not very far from you, which is how I was able to come here today. And then the other snag, I haven't talked about this in front of a lot of people, so is that my high school alma mater, which I was meditating on a lot as inspiration for who I'm gearing to write the story for, is Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, where there was this horrible mass shooting. And the class today was very poignant for me, but for the Bhagavad Gita, I didn't know if there was a chapter or just one part of a chapter that I should meditate on more.
First point, from traditional point, Gita chapter 15th, Purushottama Yoga, that contains the climax of the Gita. And sannyasins recite that before they eat their food. Urdhvama moolamada shakham. Up the roots, below are the branches. So that you can focus on that as the essence of the Gita. Another point, follow your taste. Just like when a plate of food is given to you, don't follow any rules. You can find inspiration, a lot of inspiration in the second chapter, where sthita prajna lakshanas are described. The immortality of the soul is described. And likewise, you can choose anywhere else. Gita is full of pearls.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Our next class with Swamiji will be Friday, and of course we'll be continuing with the Ramayana by Saint Tulsidas Ji at 7:30. Tomorrow, although Swamiji is not here, the discussion group that meets at 6 o'clock will be functioning, and all are welcome to attend. They're discussing the art of positive thinking at this time, and sharing their ideas. On Saturday, there's pranayam at 7, and Swamiji joins us at 7:30 for guided meditation. And Sunday, of course, a delicious lecture on Bhagavad Gita and a delicious dinner, making it a superb Sunday. And then coming very soon, on July 22nd, Sunday, we'll be celebrating Guru Purnima, and we'll start earlier at 5 p.m. instead of 5:30. So let's all join together to make that a glorious celebration of Swamiji's presence. Also, just like to mention that these wonderful calendars that have been blessing us for a number of years, the one for 2019 is in production now. And if anybody would like to help contribute financially in any way towards its production, the ashram would appreciate that. And you can speak to Yashoda about lending a hand financially to support this calendar.